Simpson Saddest Moments. Here are the most saddest moments in the history of The Simpsons that made people sob. Mother Simpson. Season 7, Episode 8. In this episode, Homer pulls off one of his most outrageous stunts yet. He fakes his own death to avoid doing community service. The story begins with Homer being frustrated about being forced to participate in a mandatory cleanup event at the Springfield nuclear power plant. To avoid the chore, he creates a plan to fake his death. He stages a dramatic moment using a dummy. Homer throws the dummy off a cliff into a river, making it look like his body was swept away. This act is witnessed by some onlookers who believe it to be a tragic accident. As news of Homer's death spreads, Springfield reacts with sorrow and mourning. Meanwhile, Homer, completely oblivious to the chaos he has caused, enjoys his unexpected day off, lounging at home and relaxing without a care in the world. Well, this episode takes an interesting turn when the news of Homer's death eventually reaches someone very unexpected, his long-lost mother, Mona Simpson. Mona, who had disappeared from Homer's life when he was a young boy, learns about her son's supposed passing and decides to return to Springfield to pay her respects. When she meets Homer, the two share a heartwarming and emotional reunion. Mona explains that she had been in hiding for decades due to her involvement in activist movements. Specifically, she had sabotaged a germ warfare lab owned by Mr. Burns, which made her a fugitive from the law. To protect her family, she had no choice but to leave, even though it broke her heart. Homer, who had believed his mother was dead all these years, is overwhelmed with joy to have her back. However, he also feels conflicted, unsure if Mona truly loves him or abandoned him willingly. Mona reassures him that her love for him never wavered, and that leaving was the hardest thing she had ever done. She recounts how she kept tabs on him from afar and always carried guilt for being absent from his life. The episode takes a bittersweet turn as Homer and Mona bond throughout the day, making up for lost time. They share laughs and memories, and for the first time in years, Homer feels truly loved by his mother. However, their happiness is short-lived because here comes the gut punch. Mona's past is still chasing her, and staying with Homer puts them both in danger. She has no choice but to leave again. This time, it's not because she wants to, but because she has to. Maggie Makes 3, Season 6, Episode 13.
Marge is pregnant? No!
It's one of those episodes that hits you right in the soul.
Yes! With my bills paid off, I can finally quit this lousy job.
Homer finally quits his soul-crushing job at the power plant and lands a gig working at a bowling alley.
Paradise.
Honestly, Homer's dreams are so low, I'd trip over them. For Homer, this is pure bliss. No deadlines, no nuclear safety protocols, just pins to knock down and donuts to devour. It's simple, but it's perfect. But life has other plans. When Marge announces she's pregnant with Maggie,
Oh, you're pregnant!
Homer's world turns upside down. He's ecstatic at first, but the realization soon dawns on him. Another baby means more expenses, and dreams don't pay the bills.
Doomed, I told you!
So with a heavy heart, he returns to the power plant. The look of defeat on his face as he walks back into Mr. Burns' office is enough to make anyone tear up. And then, in the ending, we see Homer sitting at his desk, surrounded by Maggie's baby pictures. But he hasn't just stuck them on the wall randomly. He's used them to transform the demoralizing "Don't forget, you're here forever" plaque into "Do it for her." I mean, how many dads out there would actually do this? Most would use the baby pictures to hide unpaid bills. Homer's sacrifice is so powerful, it makes you forget the guy chokes his own son for fun. Classic parenting. 3. Lisa's Substitute. Season 2, Episode 19. Lisa has always been the emotional core of The Simpsons, and Lisa's substitute is a prime example. When her regular teacher falls ill, Lisa bonds with her substitute, Mr. Bergstrom. He's everything Lisa admires: intelligent, kind, and supportive. The heartbreaking moment comes when Mr. Bergstrom has to leave town. As Lisa says her tearful goodbye at the train station, he hands her a note that simply says, "You are Lisa Simpson." Those 4 words carry so much weight. They remind Lisa of her self-worth and her unique brilliance, even in a world where she often feels out of place. Also, let's be real, this is the only good train station scene in history. Every other one involves someone running after a train, crying, while the conductor sits there like, man, this ain't The Notebook, move it along. 4. One Fish, Two Fish, Blowfish, Bluefish, Season 2, Episode 11. In One Fish, Two Fish, Blowfish, Bluefish, Homer faces his own mortality. After eating a potentially poisonous piece of fugu at a sushi restaurant, Homer is told he has only 24 hours to live. The episode takes us through Homer's emotional journey as he tries to make the most of his final day. He makes a bucket list so sad, even a sloth would accomplish more. Imagine thinking, this is it, I'm going to die, and then wasting your last hours by listening to a Bible tape instead of, I don't know, robbing a bank or flipping off your boss. Of course, he survives in the end, but the episode leaves us with a deep appreciation for life's fleeting moments. And here we are with Bart Gets an F, where we finally see Bart trying, really trying, not to suck at life, and failing spectacularly anyway. This episode hits close to home for anyone who's ever been told they're not living up to their potential. In other words, every single one of us who has ever stared blankly at a test paper like it's written in ancient hieroglyphics. Bart, the eternal class clown, realizes he might actually have to repeat the fourth grade. Can you imagine having to redo a grade where making macaroni art is considered an achievement? Ouch. Imagine being so bad at school that even the fourth grade, a place where macaroni art counts as a skill, is too advanced for you. Desperate, he prays for a snow day, which is honestly the most religious he's ever been in his life. Studying, praying, and sweating like he just ran a marathon. He still fails. Honestly, it's like life said, good try, Bart, now back to being Springfield's favorite screw-up. The breaking point comes when Bart breaks down sobbing, admitting he feels like a failure. It's raw, it's real, and it's heartbreaking. If I were a writer for The Simpsons, I'd keep it funny. Instead of Bart crying, he'd fake a genius moment by turning his failed test into an abstract art project. Skinner, thinking Bart is a misunderstood artist, praises him until Lisa exposes the truth. Bart ends up in detention, but not before he quips, "Guess I'm just too smart for you simpletons."
Kiss the teacher!
The chalkboard gag has always been a source of lighthearted humor, a tiny moment of Bart flexing his rebel streak. But in this tribute to Mrs. Krabappel, the usual laughs were replaced with pure gut-punch sadness. For once, Bart wasn't cracking jokes or pretending to be cool. Instead, he was standing there, writing his sorrow on the chalkboard, while we all sat there crying into our snacks. This moment wasn't just about honoring Edna Krabappel's character. It was a reminder that some voids just can't be filled. Bart's usual chaotic energy was replaced by an unspoken grief so heavy, you could practically hear the sound of Springfield collectively sobbing. And let's not forget, Bart and Mrs. Krabappel butted heads more often than an aggressive game of dodgeball, but their bond was undeniable. She saw potential in Bart, even when no one else, including his own family, did. This farewell wasn't just emotional, it was brutal. It's like they ripped our hearts out, stuffed them with chalk dust, and left us to deal with the emotional mess. Thanks, The Simpsons. Santa's Little Helper Runs Away, Season 3, Episode 19, Dog of Death. This episode sets the stage for an emotional journey centered on the family's beloved pet, Santa's Little Helper. As the episode opens, Springfield is abuzz with excitement about a massive lottery jackpot. The Simpsons family, like everyone else, becomes obsessed with the prospect of winning. Amid this lottery frenzy, Santa's Little Helper begins showing signs of illness. He becomes lethargic and loses his energy, worrying the family. They take him to the vet, where they receive the devastating news. Santa's Little Helper has a twisted stomach, a condition that requires an expensive surgery costing $750. The Simpsons, who are already struggling financially, face a heartbreaking dilemma: how to afford the surgery for their beloved dog. But the family decides to make significant sacrifices to save Santa's Little Helper. Homer gives up his beloved beer, Marge sacrifices her weekly lottery tickets, Bart lets go of his comic books, and Lisa even forgoes purchasing new saxophone reeds. Their willingness to compromise highlights just how much they love their dog. The surgery is a success, and Santa's Little Helper recovers, but the financial strain leaves the family bitter and resentful. They begin to take their frustrations out on the dog, blaming him for their hardships. Feeling unloved and unwanted, Santa's little helper becomes dejected and eventually runs away from home. Lost and alone, he wanders the streets of Springfield, encountering a series of challenges. Meanwhile, the Simpsons quickly realize how much they miss him. Despite their earlier frustrations, they deeply regret their behavior and begin searching for him, hoping to bring him back home. The episode concludes on a heartwarming note, as the Simpsons welcome Santa's little helper back into their lives. They learn to appreciate the unconditional love their dog provides and vow to treat him better. 8. Bleeding Gums, Murphy's Goodbye, Season 6, Episode 22, Round Springfield. Lisa's jazz mentor, Bleeding Gums Murphy, was the one person in Springfield who actually encouraged her dreams instead of telling her to tone it down. So, of course, the Simpsons decided to kill him off, because why not crush Lisa's spirit completely? When Lisa finds out Murphy has passed, it's not just the loss of a friend, it's the death of one of the few people who saw her for who she really was. If that's not depressing enough, Bart uses his lawsuit money to buy Murphy's album so Lisa can hear it on the radio. And while that's a sweet gesture, it's Bart we're talking about. You know he'd rather spend that money on fireworks or revenge pranks if Lisa weren't already crying her little heart out. This episode is like the perfect jazz solo. Beautiful, emotional, and painful in all the right ways. Except instead of snapping your fingers in appreciation, you're using them to wipe away tears. Which episode wrecked you the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button. If you don't, Santa's little helper will run away again. And this time, it's your fault.